went towards Volskaya pretty often, but the point is, we still run Tomb of the Spider Queen well. We will get that first turn in, and then we will answer it back with a second turn in. That's usually when the game feels like it starts to fall off. So HeroesHearth has got to have something planned.
All right, game number 1 here as Dignitas goes up against HeroesHearth, both looking for big points here midway through the group.
I just want to point out that especially when we're looking at the North American teams, there are certain patterns that you can really see in the maps as well. Of course, when we look at regional play, that's oftentimes pretty obvious. But right now, Tempo Storm has, for example, banned out BOE 3 times. HeroesHearth, up to this point, has banned out Infernal Shrine twice. This is the 3rd time. So there are very strong patterns that in a playoff phase can, to an extent, maybe even be abused. So that's at least something to keep track on here, because they just follow a very linear idea of which maps they want to get rid of and also which maps they are picking.
I figured this was going to be a map that the draft was led by HeroesHearth on because it's their map pick. Dignitas has not played this battleground yet this tournament. Of all the battlegrounds to play, I have not encountered Tomb of the Spider Queen, which is actually quite rare for a European team to just never end up hitting that in the first 3 days of competition. So it's HeroesHearth who leads this with an early Lunara pick. We've seen Fnatic use this in the past, and it was actually used against North America just yesterday. Later in the draft, though. But they lead the charge with this, looking for wave clear, looking for Nature's Claim to get value on this map. But it's very risky to pick Lunara this early. There's so many things you could do as Dignitas now to counter this.
Yeah, so much so that I feel like this might have thrown Dignitas for a little bit of a loop to see that this early. Like, what are you doing? What are you planning? Because it was a little bit unexpected from us, and I think it probably was a little bit unexpected from them, no?
Yeah, it's definitely different here. I mean, at first glance, you have the Johanna, so you immediately have that wave clear, and you should be fine in that regard. Now, Dignitas is trying to figure out how exactly they want to handle this. There's a couple of options. You can go for Poke Siege potential. You can go for Dive if you want to try and get on top of that Lunara. And so far, it looks like they're going to go the Dive route with the Malfurion straight into a Tracer. And they'll go ahead and round it out with some decent wave clear there with Blaze in the bottom lane.
To me, it's always interesting to see that Tomb is picked against the European team. And then again, if you look at the statistics of Dignitas on Tomb of the Spider Queen in the regular circuit, then it's not really one of their strongest maps. 6 wins and 3 losses. Leaves them at a 67% win ratio. Doesn't sound too bad, but if you put it in context of their average number of matches they win, which is at 83%, it's one of their weakest maps in the pool. So HeroesHearth is still having the confidence to say, well, Tomb might be a European specialty, but we are absolutely confident that we can take Dignitas down there, and they don't see them as that strong here either.
Past-star ban kind of leads me to believe that HeroesHearth is looking at this draft as a Tracer carry, Tracer looking to get them into the backline, force Tracer in onto the Lunara and get those kills. It's difficult to use Blaze to actually get stuns on Lunara. That should never theoretically happen, especially with Johanna in the front line. But let's see how deep down the dive path Dignitas wants to go, because Genji's still available. We have seen Tracer Genji comps, at least in Korea, do very, very well against a composition like the one we're seeing from HeroesHearth. You just avoid the Johanna, you get past her, you get on top of Lunara. It can be very terrifying.
One of the things about Genji is, though, that he absolutely just bombs at this tournament. Like, he is incredibly low in terms of his win ratio. Before we came in here, he had 5 wins and 12 losses, so he's not really doing too well. Normally, he stands out on Tomb because you can cross lanes so quickly and can start ganking the solo lane very, very easily with his help. But for mobility reasons, they already have Tracer, Dignitas that is. But yeah, Genji is a bit of an odd one at this point. For now, he's even banned out, but this is definitely a hero that I expected to be higher up in when it comes to success.
Yeah, it's not just the high involvement, low win rate where you see it hovering around 50. It's actually very, very low.
Yeah, I think around the 3%. I'm actually kind of wondering here about what the side lane is going to be here for HeroesHearth. We've been seeing them run a lot of Zeratul, also a lot of Thrall as well. But I feel like Zeratul is going to be a bit of a miss here on this battleground.
Yeah, especially in this competition.
Yeah.
So they played Sonya once, they played Thrall once so far in the tournament here, so I think the 2 of them might be 2 that they're looking at. But we only have really a small sample size of them. Traditionally, when you look at Tomb, another hero that you could have brought in would have been Leoric. But we have seen very, very little Leoric in play. Every now and then he makes it in, especially when we look at the Korean and Chinese teams, but they fall back into Thrall as the option to face off against Blitz.
Look at these heroes that we have, Lunara and Chromie, 2 super backline heroes that positioning is so important for. We've seen a lot of Medivh from Dignitas. Medivh is open, and it's going to sound crazy to say this, but I feel like you could try to allow Blaze to get the backline with the Medivh pick. Here's Stitches, which is great with Medivh as well, with the Gorge potential on this map specifically. JPL's old favorite here with the Stitches getting locked in first of the tournament. Chromie has a abysmal win rate, I think 1 in 5 currently this tournament as well. So, I mean, this is a risky pick when you've already gone into Lunara. I think a Medivh rounds this draft out fantastically. It's one that Stitch has been running a lot this tournament. It's a Dignitas favorite. And I think Dignitas has a great counter plan here if they're willing to lock in that 5th pick Medivh.
I think for me, I would like a little bit more damage in the mage role. Maybe, well, I was going to say a Gold Dam, but a Jaina works there too. Simply because they already have a really good setup with these Stitches into Malfurion. But if they were trying to go for that Gorge combo, that could have been a very scary pickup as well. But I love the Jaina coming in, gives them more wave clear. They can now match against HeroesHearth, and they also get the additional pressure of poke around the turn-in, which is where HeroesHearth is really strong. They poke like crazy.
And they got the burst, so now you go from a Stitches hook into a Blaze Engage, Malfurion Roots, and the immediate burst damage through Jaina. So you have a comp that can really blow up around the Stitches hook cooldown.
5th pick here. Looking for a support that works well with this versus burst damage. It's not going to be easy to find one that works well here. I don't think we were really looking for the Uther. This might even just be a Rhaegar coming through. Help Johanna stay on the front line. Help the Thrall work well here. Stukov, I think it's just not really going to help you when you're dealing against Tracer and Jaina damage. It's just too slow, the healing. There's not enough burst. Deckard Cain could help you get blow up, but again, it's the same problem with that burst damage.
Having a cleanse and a panic button would definitely be nice. Cleansing every now and then, a hook out, getting maybe an Ancestral or Divine Shield would also help. But they actually go for Deckard. He's great on the map. Now he has a lot of zone control, he can really help you, but for the reasons mentioned, the problem is still that he can't really do too much against the hook potential that we see from Dignitas.
I think he actually does decent, actually. Being able to throw it out his Sapphire and be able to slow down the opponent gives your team the chance to actually move in for an engage or at least poke down a target, so you have a chance to save them, but it still is going to be difficult, even if Deckard Cain gets hooked himself.
But I mean, what does the slow give to you? Because if the hook comes in, there is no movement. If they had if they would all send around the Gorge company trying to just escape, then maybe. But I think in this case, they only want to hook the target in, lock it down with the root, and then burst it.
Well, looking for predictions. Starting with you, Kaldor.
I mean, as usual, I'm going to stick at the beginning with the European team. I think Stitches on this map is for Dignitas fantastic. I feel they can definitely pull off the hook into a root. I believe in Zalia on Malfurion as well, Poik on Tracer. So I think there's so many different ways on how they can run the draft here. Yep. And I think that HeroesHearth, as well as they play right now, is going to fall victim to that.
I think Zalia is the best Malfurion of the tournament so far. We've got JPL on Stitches. I mean, this draft looks god tier on the side of Dignitas, and I think Keller and I are both on the exact same page in terms of Deckard Cain's lack of potential to save people when the hooks come through. I don't agree with Trick. I just don't think he's going to be able to save, so I have to go with Dignitas here as well.
Yeah, I actually look over to JPL as well on Stitches. It's time to hook. Whenever he pulls out that Stitches, man, he knows how to deliver a victory, and I can't shy away from it. I pick Dig.
Okay, and then I think I'll go Dignitas too, because if I didn't, it would be kind of scary for the moment. But we do have that. So let's see what Twitch chat believes. 66-34% here. What time is it in America?
Don't ask me.
Yeah, what?
I felt so hard yesterday.
Yeah, that's true.
Give me a second. In the US, we currently have...
LA 8 a.m., right? Or is it 8 p.m.?
Yeah.
It's roughly in the morning.
AM.
Oh, okay.
Just like a morning.
So
it's
next match, it might be a little bit... I see.
So I think the US is awake for that.
Yeah.
That's a good match. They've been playing well. But there's definitely a couple of American fans that are watching this right now.
If I was in America, I'm not awake. Let's check in with the commentators and see what they think. What do you guys think?
Oh man, Dignitas, maybe not the best win rate on Tomb. It's one of HeroesHearth's best, but is it enough to be able to beat a European team on Tomb? I don't know, Tetcher. What do you think?
Dig absolutely hooks me in. JPL Stitches, you can't avoid it. You can't get away from it. So I can't argue against Dignitas here.
Well played, my friend. Well played.
Thank you.
It'll do. It'll do. All right, have fun, guys.
Thank you very much, Calaris. I'm here. Tetcher, I'm so pumped. It's our first cast ever together. I am looking forward to it.
And already we're on opposite sides because it's Europe versus America.
I know. Always divided. But you know what? It's the European team here, so I'll let you do the honors of the first introduction.
Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, on the left-hand side, from Europe, it is Dignitas with Zalia on Malfurion, Snitch on Tracer, Wubby on Blaze, JPL on that Stitches, and Poik is bringing out the Jaina.
JPL on Stitches is such an amazing throwback, but every time we have a LAN, we get it, and I'm surprised it took this long to get there. Here in the red, it's HeroesHearth Esports. Ishbu on Johanna, Crowan playing Lunara, McIntyre on Thrall, Arthlon playing Chromie, and BBJ playing Deckard Cain. I want to bring up a very important topic because it's been brought up before. Chromie in this tournament has had a very rough time, especially versus these European teams who have played so much Chromie and against Chromie that they know to watch for when the wind-up time starts to happen and then capitalize on it. I've seen Arthlon struggle into a Stitches before as Chromie because of hooks. If Dignitas can start getting some of the initial structures down, that could be a huge problem for Arthlon.
Immediately, though, as the game starts, a big chunk, a triple Dragon Breath coming in there from Arthlon, so perhaps a sign of things to come. But like you said, that Stitches always a threat against the Chromie here. However, another interesting talent I want to point out as Johanna gets hooked in, but it's Johanna, she's fine, is going to be the hippity hop coming in from Lunara. She wants to get those rotations going as opposed to keeping an eye on Stitches perhaps with natural perspective.
Right. Lunara is already considered to be very slippery because of how her movement works, and add that extra 10% to that, and it's going to help make sure that Crowan can potentially even bait some of these hooks, but also just try to make sure that Crowan is not getting hooked, because with so much stun lock, with so much follow-up damage considering the Tracer and the Jaina, there is a ton of kill potential in this early game for Dignitas.
It's also worth pointing out here that once we reach the late game, this could be a problem due to the fact that Stitches is going to get that extra wideness on the slam, which is likely going to be hitting Lunara if she's in range to auto attack, which will completely remove that movement speed pretty quickly in most fights.
Yeah, I absolutely expect to see Leaping Strike as a way
I would
of
hope so.
making sure to disengage should Crowan take the hooks. Also slowing Sands, given that temporal loop can generally be avoided when you have a bunker from Blaze. So in this case, a lot of control between the Deckard Cain, between Johanna, even the Thrall, and then of course slowing Sands at 8.
Thanks to the help of Snitch, Whoopi is dominating this bot lane versus Thrall there, easily clearing it out. But for now, a little bit of a slow start. JPL not throwing out too many hooks yet, and if so, only really going for like a little bit of poke damage onto Johanna there. So nothing too much at the start of this game.
Yeah, more priority from HeroesHearth is placed into the mid-top rotation, whereas as you mentioned, Dignitas is putting a lot of focus on having either McIntyre picks or dealing some damage to those structures, so that once they have the first turn-in, as that Pulse Bomb does a number to Crowan, but doesn't equal out to First Blood, if they can get that first turn-in, then they can try to take out the structures in the bottom lane, open up the map, open up for more rotations, and, like I said before, take down some of those early tier structures so that the map becomes more open for hooks.
That would be wonderful here, but now we see a huge wave clear boost coming in for HeroesHearth with that Nature's Toxin there. Wants to burn through all of those minions. This is so much going to speed up the rotations of HeroesHearth. Dignitas, they're going to need a little bit of wave clear of their own to keep up, and you just saw Bronze talents there. Such a good talent versus Tracer, who's getting dropped down here. Almost hit by the Stab Blast, but the counter kill. Lunara biting off more than she can chew.
Yeah, not respecting the rotation down from Poik there. I want to see HeroesHearth make sure that they're keeping an eye out for these rotations, but the Dragon's Breath fires back at Poik. No kill for HeroesHearth yet, but they are still fighting.
They're still fighting. They are holding themselves together. They didn't lose too many gems there and were able to pick up most of the ones that they did drop. So now it is just Lunara on the way back, and thanks to her hippity hop, she will arrive pretty quickly. So it's not so bad for them, and it's going to be right back to this rotation.
HGC starting to turn in. In North America, we have some cool strategies revolving around turn-ins, as Crowan's going to take some damage from the Pulse Bomb, but be just fine. But some strategies, HeroesHearth likes to bring up their solo laner, although McIntyre has received so much pressure that I don't really feel like they can afford to without sending someone else down. And who are you going to send when you're looking at what HeroesHearth has in their composition? I think McIntyre is going to be very locked, handcuffed to this bottom lane, but generally he would come all the way up to the top, turn in there. Also, Tempo Storm likes to turn in little bits of gems at a time, but Dignitas have been so commanding in their presence around these turn-in points that it's been very difficult for HeroesHearth to get any gems in.
It has, and even HeroesHearth attempted to grab their own kills. Oh my god, the dive from Whoopi there, just forcing McIntyre away from the XP. Absolutely loving that. You can see there, the chance of rotation immediately denied by Poik.
All right, but you saw Deckard rotate back up, realizing that it was not going to be that easy to try to take out a Blaze. There's the hook, the root already in place. The Blizzard comes down, BBJ in so much danger. Deckard Cain falls, and right as Dignitas gets their Web Weavers to descend.
The hook from JPL at the perfect time, the parting gift from Snitch, picking up the second kill, in fact, of the game for Dignitas as their web weavers begin to push in, and Wubby is going to have a field day on this fort with those.
So I talked about opening up the map for hooks, but Tracer also would love to have some of these structures down so that she can move around more. There's less safety to run to retreat to for HeroesHearth whenever the pulse bombs start coming out. And that bottom lane is such a problem, whereas Dignitas are pushing pretty much everywhere, and Wubby is so far around the corner here, checking to see if he can flank in once they take this down. Here he goes. He's gonna at least draw the back.
Yeah, scouts in a little bit with the oil there, but now the gate is down. He could still consider diving in, but you can see Thrall not wanting to let that happen. Just force will be back down into this bottom lane. Only bot fort went down, but all of the main walls and towers in all the other lanes have been severely weakened by this web weaver push.
9-7 on HeroesHearth's favored battleground, one of their favorite battlegrounds. They're going to cautiously step forward, but there's still the web weaver that has pushed back the bottom lane so severely that McIntyre is way separated from the rest of this team. Dignitas could have Wubby make a faster rotations, but to get here, with heroic abilities so close for Team Dignitas, this is scary for HeroesHearth to be out here. Look at Wubby.
Still rotating around, looking for potential roam opportunities, and also just staying safe himself. He's still near enough to a turn and near enough to his own base that a dash, if no one can get in front of him, will get him out. And Dignitas, look at this, their heroics. Ring of Frost, Twilight Dream, it's all about the potential wombo here. And they're going to try and make something happen with this 10, looking to steal the camp. BBJ, the one holding it, but they back up as Tracer dominates Lunara. Ring of Frost, Twilight Dream, perfectly done, and McIntyre is just a slightly delayed, inevitable casualty.
I am so surprised that HeroesHearth were willing to stay over that the minute they saw anything happen, but the zoning from Dignitas was so good in the combo of Ring of Frost and Twilight Dream. Obliterated HeroesHearth. They're setting them massively behind in this game one.
And here we see Dignitas taking down their second fort of the game. 5 kills to 0, 2 and a bit level lead right now for Dignitas. They didn't even use Putrid Bile in that. That was purely just the choke point of that mercenary camp area.
Which is pretty good for things like Twilight Dream, Ring of Frost, Jaina in general. Yes, pretty nice thing to have. Yes, we talked about the zone control for HeroesHearth, but some of those things just aren't online yet. You don't have Blessed Shield yet, you don't have Earthquake, you don't have Stay Well and Listen if that ends up being the choice. We had a Lornado earlier, so who knows what we're going to get there. HeroesHearth are almost 2 heroic abilities, but they're going to have to get them and immediately defend a secondary turn-in of Dignitas.
Romy did, as we called though, went for the Slowing Sands. This could also really synergize the unfair advantage of Lunara. If we can get to the late game, this could be the attempt here, but for now, Dignitas moving in just as HeroesHearth hit their level 10s. Can HeroesHearth make something happen? They're trying. Ishbu getting chunked though, while Snitch just wrecks. The sleep was good, but Snitch woken up there by Chromie.
Right, Snitch was trying to dive in, and BBJ was hoping to stay a while and listen to kill Snitch, but still Snitch able to get out, and then off the front of that too, Jaina went down, so it's a 1-for-1 on the mages, but there's no fort to retreat to. Wubby and Snitch still very healthy to be able to go back in, and with the hook and the follow-up route, Zaylia so good at those follow-up routes. Another death and another big loss of gems for HeroesHearth.
Heal from Decade, saving the life of McIntyre there as Snitch just continues to drop those pulse bombs. And while all this is happening, as you can see now, bot lane has been absolutely wrecked by this web weaver. It will barely survive thanks to the Nature's Culling coming out right now. But either way, Dignitas still looking dominant, and they're just going to take a boss here.
The Putrid Bile was nice from JPL in that last fight to slow down. HeroesHearth were trying to chase down and get the Jaina kill. Yes, it did amount to it, but it was just enough to give Snitch that time to get in and get the Chromie kill and get out. Stay Well and Listen has that 1 second wind-up time before you actually can drop it down. And just enough that, at least for HeroesHearth, they traded kills. You know, you get some of that comeback XP, but this map is so blue. It is rough waters for HeroesHearth.
Wubby tries to deny supports back, and in fact does. Both Arthur and McIntyre giving up and just running back, as it's now a 3 versus 4 defense, as Dignitas looking to make something happen with this boss. Looks like they're pretty comfortable just moving back here to deal with the other web weavers in the other lanes.
They'll deal with that. The boss keeps this top lane pushed, does quite a bit so that Dignitas can get that free clear. McIntyre dodges the hook, knew that that would be coming out. Now they have a bit of time, or they would have liked to be able to get the re-engage started, but the rest of Heroes Hearth slower into this to start, at least. Now we get it, though. The Earthquake goes down.
Putrid Bile is really good into the bunker to dance forward, looking for Crowwood as Snitch just eats BBJ. The shield is good, but with Lunara and Thrall down, that's a huge amount of slows missing here. Snitch, yeah, does not get the kill here. Woken up by the minions, but we will see Heroes Hearth get their last 3 members out, but that's still 2 for 0 again for Dignitas.
And the Webweavers just clearing them out.
Yep.
Dealing with that this whole time. A keep is low. Dignitas almost 16 for a 4-level lead. As they bring down this keep, they'll get that a complete 4-level lead over Heroes Hearth. And though the respawn timers are short and Team Dignitas are far away from their safety, that was a great Herodric cube.
Yeah, helping hand just in case. That's how scary that was, the geometry. Just too much for them. Cubes and triangles all over the place.
Too much. Too much math for my brain. I'm a caster. I don't like any of that.
Yeah, stay in school. Learn geometry. Here comes the Mercenary Camp coming out from Lunara. Dekukade assisting with that as well. So they're trying to get some counter pressure onto mid lane a little bit. They're just about to hit 13, but Ishbu potentially moving forward a little bit too early here. This could backfire. It absolutely backfires. McIntyre hooked over the wall. Nowhere to go, Fred. He goes down as Whoopi is 1v4ing. Finally, Snitch arrives to help him out.
Poor McIntyre didn't even have Earthquake as a means of slowing down. He was absolutely going to go down. BBJ used to stay well and listen, but that just puts him in a terrible spot to be hooked, and the Roots were there to follow up. Bring Frost is Poik, and Wubby chase down one, get that kill. BBJ running away from a tank and a support. But in the end, he gets the shielding from his potion.
Break.
And there's that giant slam with the slow even now that they're at 16. And the lead widens for Team Dignitas. It just feels like they are looking for any which way to end this game.
Yeah, Chroma was the only survivor in that last fight. Now there's Webweavers on the way. 2 lanes full of mercenary camps with Dig staggering theirs after Heroes Hearth. They're moving in. They're looking for, at minimum, this mid keep. Almost certainly top keep as well, if not going for the core, if they can pick up a kill or 2.
Giants and Webweavers soon. The Webweavers still rushing in to the bottom. Bruisers and Webweavers in the mid. This is an overwhelm the core type strategy. And without a Thrall, he's running for his life.
Potion value, saving McIntyre for the moment. But here they come forward as they move for the core. All the lanes getting pushed out. Big stun coming in. Down goes Deckard as the shield on the core is just non-existent. Full team wiped by Dignitas, and they will take game number 1 with a 5-level lead.
Team Dignitas must have practiced their whack-a-mole, because that's what that looked like at the end. Just popping bubbles left and right to take down all of Heroes Hearth Esports. And you know, we talked about Tomb of the Spider Queen versus a European team. It may not be the best win rate for Team Dignitas, but nevertheless, they still show a lot of prowess here, as every European team is wont to do. I have to question some of the drafting decisions from Heroes Hearth Esports. It felt like they did want to have a counter and then re-engage style composition, but never really able to get that going, get that started. With Putrid Bile was just enough to allow Dignitas to get away.
I think I'm on board with you, and especially due to the stitches, JPL stitches. You can't argue with it. Every time he pulls it out, it's a rare little treat for us, but it always seems to work.
Yeah, and a control over the Chromie was a question for us, but even as far back as the first turn-in, and the control over bottom, that they were able to get so much damage done to the bottom structures was very good. Well done. They put on a clinic.
Yeah, and it was a question for us, but it was a question for our panel as well. And let's see what they have to say now in the post-game of that first series.